admittedly excited before we were planning this segment to have Ian here to discuss this, and then he has the audacity to put number 6 on Dallas on the starting team instead of Amar'e Stoudemire. So now this is going to kind of turn into a trial here. Not what I had intended, prosecution and the defense. So I will give you the floor. All yours. Give us an explanation as to the big, debatable power forward slot on your team.
Listen, I know you're upset, you're emotional right now because Porzingis did not want to be on your team. I get it. You're still hurt. But if you look at Amar'e Stoudemire, he had a strong, 3 months, 4 months, and then the Carmelo trade happened.
Don't undersell it. It was MVP.
It was MVP level. He was at it,
3 to 4 months.
25 a game.
We're back. No, he had a tremendous run. But then look at what happened. Carmelo comes. They're a bad fit. You look at the best season they had, 12-13. He was hurt for most of that year. Carmelo moved to the 4, and they really thrived without Amar'e. And then, you look at some of the playoff injuries. He hurt his back doing a trick dunk before one of those Boston games. He punches the fire extinguisher. It's a bloody hand in that Miami series. So how much did he really contribute to the success of these teams? And then, obviously, Porzingis was on some terrible Knicks teams, so you can't talk about wins and losses there. But he had the city excited, I think, more so than Amar'e Stoudemire for different reasons.
Let me interject here because Carmelo Anthony, who's arguably the greatest Knick of the decade, we could have the conversation of all time, is not on the Knicks at all to begin with unless Amar'e Stoudemire is here first. He brought basketball back. This is after the Knicks whiffed on LeBron James and Durant in his first free agency run. Amar'e was the first to come here. So while his on-the-court play, granted, was limited to about, 3 months there before he got hurt, and it turned into a liability of a contract, all of that success the Knicks had in that one playoff season, you can attribute to the fact that Amar'e was simply here. He opened the gate to trade for Tyson Chandler, bring those guys in, to re-sign those dudes, to bring in the veterans. It doesn't happen without Amar'e.
Yeah, I'm going to sing the praises of Amar'e in a little bit, but I'm going to get on you about your backcourt, all right? I was looking at the point guard position, and it just looks so, is it really this bad? I love Ray Felton and all that, but, we had Jason Kidd, who, despite he had one good season and then went on to go coach the Brooklyn Nets, 54 wins. The numbers don't really tell the whole story. And then my real gripe over here, I love a discount double check. I love Steve Novak. He was a fan favorite in the Garden. But granted, we didn't like his contract. You can't justify not having Tim Hardaway Jr. on your backcourt for your all-decade team. The guys that put up the third most points out of any Knick, not named Amar'e Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony, out of everybody here. And, I always got love for Pablo, so shout out to Pablo. So you gotta explain to me the backcourt area.
Why Lance Thomas?
I know point guards are hard to come by, but just tell me how you got to that.
Let's talk about Tim for a second, because this all-decade team is probably as depressing as it gets in pro sports, right? But then if you want to throw a guy on there who you drafted and then traded, and then you brought him back for a horrendous contract, and then you traded him out with your franchise player because you wanted a contract off the books, and you want him on the all-decade team?
Yes.
Does it get any worse than that?
Listen,
It's bad right now. That makes it horrendous putting Tim Hardaway Jr. on this team. Come on. And Jason Kidd, I totally hear what you're saying. He was fantastic for that 1 year, but my thing was it was only 1 year, and Ray Felton was here in Amar'e's first year, and he was part of the driving force behind the 12-13 team.
Borderline all-star that season.
Just more of a sustained run of success here in New York for Ray than Jason. But I hear you on Jason.
Felton was great, but Linsanity was just a couple of weeks. I don't think that will ever be topped in the NBA, period, ever.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about this terrible team that has I want to reiterate, this is Lance Thomas is on the all-decade Knicks team. There was a point that he was the most tenured Knick on the roster before they made a couple moves. Are you kidding me? How is that even possible?
I have a soft spot for Lance. Great guy, one of the best guys in some terrible locker rooms to go to and talk basketball with. But he, if you talk to the coaches, you talk to people in the organization, I think things fall apart even worse than they did over the last 3-4 years in that locker room if there's no Lance Thomas there. So if you're a Knick fan, You know how bad it was on and off the court. It could have been even worse, even more embarrassing for your franchise without a guy like Lance Thomas.
You know, we're talking about, getting free agents and getting, like, the right players into this Knicks franchise. Guys, Jeremy Lin had 3 good weeks as a Knick, and he's on the All-Decade Team. If that is not any incentive, it was a fantastic 3 weeks. Best 3 weeks of my adult Knick fan life. But if you're going to have any incentive to come to New York and be a star here, the guy's got movies because of these 3 weeks. So, yes, please, Linsanity, fantastic. Was it overrated, underrated? Was it just a product of New York hype? What was it?
Product of New York hype, for sure. And look, you look at him, you look at Steve Novak, you look at other guys on this list, they have a small run of success in New York, and they get paid. So if you're an NBA player, you're looking to get paid. Have a couple good weeks in New York. You'll be on the back pages. You'll be talked about on shows like this, and you're going to get money in your next contract.
All right. Well, for now, I will accept your explanations. We'll continue this further on the whole Porzingis for Amar'e thing. And Justine, J.R. Smith being on there, by the way, off the court antics, making him that starting position back in the Rihanna days.